This video will explain to new users of the Videometer Lab how to do an essential light setup to acquire the best image results. Go to the Videometer light setup. Start by choosing a 100% reflectance light setup and then press apply. Then we take two images, one of the light sample and one of the dark sample. The two images are inspected and checked for saturated pixels. It is clear that when using the 100% reflectance light setup, there are no saturated pixels, and it produces nice and clear images for both the light and the dark sample. In the light setup menu is listed the default 19 bands with their corresponding wavelengths and name. The strobe time for each color and band is also given. It is the strobe time that is tuned and changed when a more specialized light setup is made with the auto light function. It is possible to change the order of the colors or wavelengths in the light setup as shown in the video. In the same way, it is possible to delete specific bands. The missing bands can always be added again, and the order of the bands sorted with the sort button. The order of the wavelengths and bands as they appear in the light setup will accordingly be the order of the bands in the images taken using this light setup. If less than 19 bands are included in the light setup, only the included number of bands will be included in the final images. To do an autolight with the selected list of bands, press the autolight button. It is important that the red square is enclosing a representative part of the sample with respect to colors. Press start and wait for the process to end. When it is done, press transfer light setup. From the light setup menu, it is now clear that the strobe times has changed. Save the light setup by pressing save. One must also press apply in order for the light setup to be enabled. We take an image of the light sample. It is seen that the very light border of the Petri dish is marked with saturated pixels, but this is okay and expected, as this area, and thus the pixel colors, is not included in the area around the sample where the autolight was made. Taking an image of the dark sample with the autolight for the light sample, we see that it works fine, and it produces a nice image as well, with only saturated pixels around the Petri dish. Now, an autolight is done for the dark sample. Again, it is important that the red square is enclosing a representative part of the sample with respect to the colors. Therefore, the lighter parts of the samples are included in the red square as seen in the video by pulling the corners of the square. Again, press start and wait for the process to end. When it is done, press transfer light setup. And from the light setup menu, it is now clear that the strobe times again has changed. Save the light setup by pressing save and press apply. We take an image of the dark sample. It is seen that the very light border of the Petri dish is marked with saturated pixels, but this is okay and expected. The sample itself is clear and looks true to the real colors, and thus the light setup works as expected. Taking an image of the light sample with the autolight for the dark sample, the quality of the image fails completely. The reason for this is that the light setup for the dark sample has relatively higher strobe times than the autolight for the light sample, making the exposure time for the diffuse light in the Videometer Lab dome higher. When taking an image with these high exposure times of a light sample, the camera is exposed to too much light, and this eventually makes the quality of the image bad. This is why we see this big difference in the quality of the images of the light sample taken with the two different light setups. As a default setting that works for all samples, choose the 100% reflectance light setup. Customize the number and order of bands included in the images by adjusting the light setup. Generally, autolight setups made on light-colored samples work well for images of darker colors, but not the other way around. When going from a darker sample to a lighter colored one needs to do a new light setup.